I remember Shona telling me that this was a small space and we have now extended it.
I think to have challenges is very important.
Skills or potentials do you normally see when you have to appoint somebody?
First thing is the email.
Were your initial years difficult as a student of architecture?
Uh,
Hello, a warm welcome to Ruburu with Rupali. We have with us architect Chirag Jain and architect Shona Jain. These are two eminent personalities who have made their mark in this journey, in this field of architecture. And I'm so glad and so grateful that they could give their time today. They're one of the most comfortable, most humble couple which I have seen today, and they have been entertaining us right before the start of this podcast. I have been talking to them, and I'm sure that today what we will discuss with them will show you innumerable paths and ways in which they have tried to pursue architecture and follow their passion. So, welcome here on board, Shona and Chirag. Thank you for giving your time, really, really. I know today there is a off holiday for your staff, but you still made it from Alibag, I suppose yesterday you were. So thanks a lot. Chirag, a legacy is what we see in your offices. I remember Shona telling me that this was a small space and we have now extended it. It just shows that how when embarking on a journey that the renowned architect Uttam Singh Jain began, and you being his son, do you feel that there were challenges for you as a student when you chose this field? And another question which I want to ask you is, was this your chosen profession or field when you decided to become an architect or choose Bachelor of Architecture as a course?
So there was never any pressure from my father to join the profession or to be an architect. I think that was completely my own decision. He gave me the options in front of me. He allowed me to explore uh, what different professions could mean for me. But I think that choice was completely mine.
Yeah.
I was also privileged that as a young boy, I came often to his studio. My school was not too far from here. And I would often, on my way back home from school, I would actually just drop into the office and I would go home with him. I think that allowed me the opportunity to kind of see what the practice was like, or just kind of overhear conversations between him and consultants, him and the architects in the studio. And that kind of allowed me to get early exposure.
Right.
So there was never any pressure to really, and it was completely my choice to become an architect. As a student, there were always people who kind of, at some point, kind of recognized I was Uttam Jain's son. But I don't think that ever kind of put any kind of unreasonable pressure on me. I don't. It gave me opportunities at time, or the courage at time to kind of speak to people who I would otherwise not have had
Yes.
courage to speak to or taken the initiative to talk to. But I don't think that kind of really ever posed challenges for me or put a burden on me. I think it's been quite easy for me in that sense.
Nice, nice. Shona, how about you? How did you choose architecture as a profession?
so actually, I had no architects around me, but I think maybe from the time I was 12, 13, or some sort of fascination between maybe at some point seeing drawings or plans and how does that really translate into these three-dimensional objects, buildings. And I think it was that fascination that kind of led me on to wanting to study architecture and take that forward.
So I suppose if Chirag knew what architecture was for him, you must have got a totally different perspective when you joined as a student that many times we are told that your drawing is good, आपका drawing अच्छा है तो आपको architecture में जाना चाहिए, which is not the case actually. So were your initial years difficult as a student of architecture?
I wouldn't say difficult, but definitely revealing. I didn't have any initiation into an architectural practice or knowing many architects or anything like that. But I think I remember meeting Brinda Somaya once before I got into architecture and going to her office, I think. But that was much later. I think by that time, I definitely decided I would pursue architecture. And of course, she has a lovely studio and she took me around and I could see what she
And
was
Brinda
doing.
Somaya as a personality, the aura that I remember Brinda Somaya had come for us as a jury during our final year Viva. And the thought that she is there itself built. But the minute we met her and we talked to her, she made us so comfortable. My roll number was quite behind and it was late, already 6:37, and there were girl students who were requesting that whether our jury can be conducted early and whether we can leave early. And that is the time she said, you are in a profession where you are not supposed to ask that.
Yeah.
You just don't worry, just come here, be the man that is in you. And I would like to again ask you, as a woman entrepreneur, there must have been challenges looking at changing roles in these years and being in such a firm which is looking at humongous projects. How are you managing it?
I won't say it's easy, but I think you have to really believe in yourself, believe in your strengths, because I think we all have ours. Of course, we have our weaknesses, but we have to play to our strengths. We have to make our choices. We have to be comfortable with the choices we make, whether it's to take time off work or to take a decision to continue to work and let something else slip away or take second preference. But I think if we just stand by and be true to our choices, and we always have a choice, there's always a choice. And you have to make a choice that works for you and works for the people around you, and you have to make it work. I think.
And somewhere architecture is a profession that can give you so many options.
Absolutely. I mean, you can work at the scale that you choose to work at, you can work at a pace that you choose to. And that's part of the choices you make. And yes, I choose to be part of this amazing organization. And so, yes, there are compromises along the way. There are, maybe even mistakes you make along the way. But as long as you stick to what you really think is the right choice and right path, then I think it's about balancing them and moving forward. But I would say it's possible for everyone to make those choices and have the balances.
Yes, true. Chirag, I would like to ask you, when I went through the projects that you have been doing, at least there are awards 20 plus. I think you have mentioned only the selected ones. You have not put down everything. There are competitions that you have got prizes in, and a wonderful array of the projects and the work that you have been doing. But most importantly, what I understood was your ideology, the humanity approach with which you are looking at your design. And somewhere, were you required to make certain decisions when you are looking at this ideology and trying to follow a way a project should be handled?
So I think one of the greatest strengths has been the diversity of projects that we work on. Diversity in terms of the program of the project as well as diversity of the scale of the project.
Right.
And I think that, in a sense, allows us to keep visiting every project with a fresh mind and not maybe a repetitive, intuitively pre-developed approach or formula to a project. So I think that's one of the things. And I think we have always fundamentally believed that at the end of the day, any built form is for the end user as a human being. And if you can think of what he gets as an experience out of your project, then you will always have a human-centric approach.
Exactly.
And I think that So it's a combination of, of course, our philosophy, but it's also the opportunity that we've had to work on diverse project typologies and diverse scale, which kind of allows us to kind of retain the human being at the center of everything that we do. So I think it is also, at some level now, it's also a very conscious choice.
Yes.
That we want to be able to work on projects that allow us to play with this. And there are times that we have to make difficult choices also in terms of showing less interest towards projects that don't allow, project opportunities, which don't allow us to kind of play this role or kind of retain this philosophy at the heart of it. And I guess you kind of then build an ecosystem around you that allows you to engage in this manner.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I think that is very difficult, and a very strong decision is required when you
Sure.
when you're looking at, because it is such a rosy picture outside, but still when you have to stick up to certain things, that this is, as an architect, I think this is something which you need to learn and follow and pursue it. It needs a lot of vigor to do that. I must appreciate.
So we always, as individuals or as human beings, we always tend to think that the situation we are in is the most difficult, and it's much easier out there, or if maybe other clients are easier to work with, or other projects are easier to work with, or bigger practices don't have this problem, or smaller practices don't have this problem. But I think it's for wherever you are at that point of time. If you didn't have enough challenges, then life is not worth living. It's too easy. Then
Right.
you become slack. So I think to have challenges is very important, and to make the most of those challenges is as important, and that's what kind of brings the best out of you.
Exactly. Exactly. When we are looking at interns or fresh architects that come to your firm to work, what are the skills or potentials do you normally see when you have to appoint somebody?
So I think for us, there are several stages to even appointing an intern. And first of all, I think we always make it a point to have a few interns in our office at any given point. I think it's an important thing to do and to have. The first thing is the email.
Oh,
We look to see if this person has CC'd 100 architects, written some generic line saying, I would love to be at your firm. That's the first thing we look at. Is this person really interested first in being with us? That's the first thing we look at. Of course, we go through the portfolio, see what their skills are and all of that. The next is the interview then, and how they come across. What is the drive? Where is the interest? What are they looking for? What are they expecting out of an internship? And then, of course, they do a little CAT test just to see that the basic skills are in place. But, there's a lot to be said about that initial communication. And that's what we are looking to see, the drive, the interest. And for us, then we want people, we know that these are students. They're not going to have every skill set we need to deliver a project in totality. But we want someone who will come with a fresh mind and willing to learn, willing to contribute, jump into any role. People come and say, so what will I be designing? What will I do? And we say, you'll do anything that needs to be done in the office. It may be a detail, it may be a sketch, it may be talking to a consultant, it may be checking drawings, it may be anything.
Anything.
I think students should be willing to learn, come with an open mind, and any practice that they will be in, if they're willing to take and draw and also give of their time and energy, it will always be a great experience both ways.
That is really, because I know how much energy goes into even grooming once the intern is here, because to fit him or her in the environment into what you are doing, and aligning, it takes a lot of energy. And I always have felt people like you are more hardcore teachers than because I have such friends who would love to teach the student again. They know that they are with them only for 3 months possibly, but they don't look at this aspect, which is a very plus point, because that shows that how much you're concerned for him or her in the future when they become architects. So what is it that they should take along, And this is where the community builds up, because the bridge between the professional and academics is very much needed.
Yeah, and I think for us, it's really, we look at how close can we bring this person to someone we'd like to have in our studio long term. I mean, obviously, most of them don't, but I think that is the aspiration for us, that's what we should be giving them if they're in our studio, that we make them profession ready.
Wonderful, wonderful. Both of you have done your masters, and you have gone to international schools for doing your masters. You have done it from AA, you have done from UCL, and the stream that you have chosen, I think, Shona, you have done in architecture design, and you, Chirag, have done in art and architecture, urbanism. So, how did you choose? Because I think you immediately took up your master's course. I have students who have been immediately jumping onto one. That is the time when they come and ask that, what is it that I feel I should go and pursue? Were you clear enough in your final year to make this decision that this is where you have to go and this is what you have to choose?
So in my case, I had a great degree of clarity of what I was going to be doing as a long-term career path.
Right.
And I had, in that sense, started thinking about my master's program right from my third year onwards itself. The course I chose, so I chose the institution I wanted to go to. And then within that institution, what was the program that would kind of maybe support me the best is what I really chose. I don't think the master's program for me was so much about specialization in a particular field, but it was more of an opportunity to explore different ideas academically that I perhaps may not pursue to the same degree in a direct sense when I come back into a practice. So I think in that sense, the Architectural Association gave me, and I was a part of something called the Design Research Laboratory, which kind of gave me a great platform to explore ideas in a way that we had never thought about while I was at the academy. So it was really about that exploration, that period of exploration and experimentation. We both came from colleges that were not very, didn't have a very strong theoretical base. And to get a theoretical base in the thinking process is what was also important for me.
Yes.
So I think I chose to do my master's immediately afterwards, after my graduation. But I would in general advise that students could take a year or two to kind of understand the profession, understand what practice is like, get some exposure on that, and then do a master's, because then you have that much more clarity. Certain amount of clarity only comes with time.
Perfect. How about you, Shona?
So I think for me, whatever exposure I had in the 5 years that we studied architecture here, I was quite clear that I didn't, in all likelihood, want to stray into, landscape or construction management or any allied field, and therefore hit a program that went for architectural design. And like Chirag said, I think the exposure to independent thinking, I think that, for me, that's the greatest and most valuable takeaway in that year of being in a program. It was headed by Peter Cook. So it had its all, unusual thinking processes and presentation processes. And we realized how spoon-fed we were. We had to develop our own project. You had to propose a project, first of all. So there was no program and site given to you, and then you have to make a design for a school or a hospital or whatever. You could propose a project. It could be theoretical. It could be very real. You had to justify that project. And then you had to create something. And it didn't necessarily have to be a building, but it was about ideation. It was about processing a thought. And I think that is what is critical. And it may not be directly applicable. And then I came back and started working immediately. So there's no direct application, but it teaches you to think. It teaches you to pause and process
Yes.
and evaluate. And I think that's a big takeaway.
I was about to ask you this question, that many times there is a notion that if you want to come back and practice here, then those degrees when you go internationally and take are not so much beneficial,
Few degrees maybe at that time didn't feel as applicable here. I would say maybe urban design or city planning. But even at that time, 25 years ago, for example, conservation was hardly prevalent in India as a practice. But there were 6 or 7 people at that time who had all done their masters in conservation and they were pursuing that. So they struggled initially, but then subsequently there's been a great demand for, and they are super specialists in that sense, So I think I would say that do your master's program or your specialization in something that you hold close to your heart, and you will excel. And once you excel, you will even generate opportunities for yourself to be able to apply what you've learned. You might adapt, but you will still at your heart be doing what you enjoy the most. So I would say don't choose based on whether there's opportunity, whether you get a good salary. Those are important. Those will happen. But pursue what is close to your heart and you'll generate the opportunity. And that's what I've seen so many people do. And they do very well for themselves. So that's what I would say, that you don't worry about the opportunities. The opportunities will come. But just follow what's close to your heart.
Fantastic.
And then you're good at it.
Yeah. This was the entire intention of having such sessions, where that small passion, we always feel that it should be a hobby, ye hote rahega, but it's not that. It's something which you have to, and architecture is a platform which can, actually merge your hobby and your professional practice and everything together and amalgamate it to your passionate course. Wonderful. It was fabulous that you are giving in these inputs. I'm sure, Shona and Chirag, that you have. These are small aspects. We don't realize how much it will, guide the students to move ahead, because the confusion is humongous. There is a scope. In fact, in our times, I feel we were fortunate that we didn't have too many options to look at, But now the challenge is different. There are so many options. There are so many people. We have seen students diverting from architecture to MBA to finance and to suddenly something else, because the confusion that prevails in them. So here in this 5 years, if they are able to concentrate and focus what they want to do, I suppose they'll be able to pursue it ahead perfectly.
I think also what's happened today is that we had limited resources in terms of exposure. It was the books in the library. I was privileged. My father had a very good library. That was our resource. Today, with the internet, everything is available to you on a click of a button. And with that comes the kind of information overload that unless you're very selective in what you allow to influence you, there's bound to be confusion. So I think that process now for kids is even more challenging, and they can only help themselves. Nobody can help you beyond the point. You have to help yourself. And I think that's the challenge for students today, that you don't get so over enamored by the photographs and the images that you see, but you look for the real content or the real thought processes or the quality.
I think you have
in
to
what
be
you're
able to
seeing.
filter the information which is available so easily now. I think that becomes very important.
That becomes very
Be a
important.
little bit
yes.
discerning about what you see and what you can find so easily.
Yeah, and this is where people like you become a great help, because somewhere when there is an authentication done to the process in which they're trying to look at a particular field is where I'm sure they'll get the confidence to move ahead. Yeah, thank you so much. It was wonderful. I think it is such a short time and there is ऐसा लग रहा है अभी शुरुआत हुई है बात करने के लिए. But Chirag and Shona, thank you very much. You have opened up your firm to the academics. You had come to the college and given a fabulous lecture on the projects that happened. I'm looking forward for further such interactions and people like you who are there to guide the students, teach them, give them a learning along with us academicians, is the most impeccable thing that can happen. That is the only way I think the architecture thought process can change. We can face the challenges together. No single-handedly is able to take it ahead because it's a vast, I would say, a very niche community, but a vast exposure that is available for them. So thank you once again for being here. And I would look forward to meet you again once some of the students are a part of your firm. I think along with them also, we will have a session wherein, we can take an input from them because this is how it is going to go ahead, wherein they also are aware of how and what learning they gathered. Thanks a lot for being here, Shona and Chirag. Thank you very much.